everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mystical Munchies featuring the Can You Take the Heat cookbook. The appetizer last week was the... what was the appetizer last week? It was... I'll know it as soon as I find it in here. Oh, that's right. It was Blackjack Lanza's Mandarin Orange and Rice Noodle Salad. That turned out to be really good last week. So this week, we're on to the side, JR's Country Cornbread. If you're not a wrestling fan, JR stands for Jim Ross, one of the greatest commentators, play-by-play announcers of all time. Arguably the GOAT, but if you want to have that discussion, please have it civilly in the comments down below. Anyway, let's tell the story about his country cornbread, which is the side we're making this week. If you wanted to have successful dates as a young man in rural Oklahoma, you had to like cornbread. Almost every young lady's mom took pride in made-from-scratch cornbread and had a big plateful after every important meal. You knew you were in business when your date's dad invited you to join him for dessert. Cornbread crumbled in ice-cold milk. Things were so much simpler back then. Well, that is a lot of years ago, and I wouldn't know anything about life being simpler from back then. Anyway, we'll find out all about this cornbread. The ingredients are waiting for us at the table, so let's move in that direction. You might hear beeping in the background just like that. I've got the oven preheating to 425 right now. In order to make this recipe, I need 1.5 cups of cornmeal, optional half a cup of sugar, which I am going to use, half a cup of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, 1.5 cups of milk, a beaten egg, and a half cup of oil or melted shortening. I'm using veggie oil for this recipe. Anyway, let's move into the kitchen and start putting this recipe together. I've got a large bowl here, which we're going to work out of, and yes, the oven's still preheating to 425. So in this large bowl, we're going to mix together first up the cornmeal, which I've got right here. Just checking the date on that. We need 1.5 cups of the cornmeal. That can go toward the dishes. The cornmeal can go back up. Next, we want the half cup of each of sugar and flour. Remember, we are using the sugar even though it is an optional ingredient. And I've got just barely enough sugar. I did pick up a new bag when I was at the grocery store this morning because I wasn't sure I was going to have enough in the canister. But it turns out I do. And we need the flour. The canister can also go up. The half cup can go back over toward the table because I'll need that again. The 4 teaspoons of baking powder, which I've got my baking powder right here, and a 2 teaspoon measuring spoon, so I can just scoop this out twice. 2 and 4. And our half a teaspoon of salt. Once it decides it wants to open properly. I had to pick this up. I picked this up fresh from a different grocery store yesterday, since I was out getting some of my stuff for prep this weekend, and I wanted to make sure I had the salt before I forgot anything. So I was debating trying to do the Trying to do my lunch prep as well in the midst of everything else with the unboxings yesterday, but I decided not to do that. I do have one more product unboxing left that I'm going to get to later this afternoon, though. It's less unboxing, more inventory. So stay tuned for that a little bit later. Anyway, we'll give this a quick mix-up. We're not really going to get it mixed together since there was a lot of flour in here. Okay. I think we're all set there. So now we want to bring the wet ingredients in, stirring only enough to mix well. So we'll start off with our 1.5 cups of milk. Once again, we have to remember that reading a meniscus is a thing. That's a little bit more than 1.5 cups of milk, but it'll do. Then we need our beaten egg, which I've got right here. And our, 1/2 cup of veggie oil. And there's the oven just coming up to temperature. So, almost perfect timing. Stirring only enough to mix well. So we'll give this a mix up. Okay. I'm going to make sure I've got a spatula ready. I'll put that off to the side. But I think that's mixed almost as well as I'm going to get it. So, with that, let's move over into the next step and bring a 9x9 pan in shot. The directions for the recipe don't explicitly say spray down a 9x9 pan. I just do because I've gotten in the habit of anytime I bake, I spray down whatever I'm using, whether it's a pan, a cookie sheet, whatever. It just makes cleanup easier. So now we're going to pour that into a 9-inch square baking dish or casserole, which I've got that right here. So we'll start pouring that in. I'll go get my spatula that I put aside. Oop, easy does it. Alright, I think that's as much of the mix as we're going to get out here. Okay. So now we want to put that in the oven and bake it until the bread's light brown. Should take about 25 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. So we might need to move the camera slightly. Yep, I'm going to need to move the camera just slightly. We'll give that about 30 minutes in the oven, just because I know this oven tends to undercook just a little bit, so we'll give it an extra 5 minutes. We'll come back once the cornbread comes out of the oven. Here's our first look at the cornbread as well as it came out of the oven. I already checked it with a toothpick, came out clean, and it's had some time to cool. So I'm going to cut this up, put a piece on a plate, and then I'll meet you guys over at my desk for the taste test. I've got some of the cornbread right here to give it a try. I will mention that a couple years ago I actually found a strawberry cornbread recipe that I really liked, just because it gave me that extra added fruit flavor with an extra touch of sweetness. Because this one seems pretty moist, we'll give it a try and see what I think of it. It's actually pretty good. Like I said, I'd probably be a bit happier with it if it had some kind of fruit in it. But for plain cornbread, it actually did turn out pretty well. It helps that it's fresh as well. So having that warm, fresh out of the oven taste and the added aspect of the flavoring really helps there. So another recipe I'm overall happy with, and that's another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books. Next week, we'll be into the entree, Stone Cold's Texas Toast. We've got a lot going on the channel this weekend. Later today, I'm going to be doing the upgrades for the spring campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, and then we've got our last product. Unboxing. But the reason I put it in quotes is because it's less unboxing and more inventorying what I've got. So we're going to spend some time with that. Also, tomorrow we'll be continuing the spring campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, with the second scenario, To the Forbidden Peaks. Wednesday, we're going to be playing Welcome To from Blue Cocker Games as we build a suburb. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.